Have you ever had a Bigfoot sighting? If you have and you don't want to let anybody know that it was you that saw him, or you're afraid to tell your story because you're afraid of you being made fun of, I'd be glad to tell your story for you. All you have to do is email me your story at bigfootadventures411@gmail.com. Let me know what you want me to say, what you don't want me to say, and I can put your story out there so other people can hear about it without you being identified. Back in October of 2005, there was a couple that had a house that was backed up to the swamp into some wooded acreage in Mulberry, Florida. And it was getting cooler out, and they were able to have a fire and sit out back. They said it started last year when it was cool enough to sit around the fire. She said, my husband and I and our neighbors heard a growl or a deep groan that we had never heard before coming from the woods behind our properties. The next night it was late. My husband and I were sitting around the fire, and we heard what sounded like something large running and knocking down trees. My husband said, that was no hog or deer. They don't sound like that. We ran in the house as it got closer to us. Later that week, I heard our dog whining and barking. I looked out the back door and through the window, and I saw it. It was standing at the fence line, looking in the backyard towards the fire. It was the biggest, scariest thing I've ever seen. I quietly walked away from the window and took my dog with me in fear that the barking would bring it closer. I buried my head in the blankets, just terrified. We told people about it, and no one believed us. It seems the fire brings it in. This year, we are having fires again already. Late at night, between 12 and 2 a.m., we were sitting out by the fire, and the noises were back. I would love for someone to come and see if they can find this thing and see what it is. It's very swampy behind our house. You can literally get lost back there. This thing was about 8 to 9 feet tall with reddish brown hair. It was hairy all over, and the arms literally hung to the knees, and it stooped slightly crotched as it stood there. It was as if it was observing us. When it comes around, there's a very nasty smell of skunk and wet swamp water. Its eyes are very dark, almost empty looking. The width of the body was about 4 feet, give or take. If it ain't a Bigfoot, please tell me what it is. So the follow-up where the BFR went out to talk to them, before they talked to them, the witness said she also noticed that the owls would quit hooting right before it would come into the area, and the dogs freaked out along with the pungent smell. As she mentioned before, the dogs would just freak out when that smell came around. The other witnesses that were with her during the first incident was her husband and her ex-neighbors, a total of 4 people. It was late night between the hours of 10 and 3 a.m. The environment was very wet, swampy, some thick, some thin areas throughout. So the follow-up investigation, they said, I contacted the witness by phone. On speaking mainly with the wife, I was told that they had another possible encounter shortly after the first one when the hurricane came through. The wife also added they had heard howling and wood knocks. They didn't mention this initially because they didn't think it was part of the encounter. The husband noted that their dog, whom he said was very hard to spook, had cowered on the porch when the wife had seen the creature. This location will be checked out by the BFRO investigators. Follow up on that, the couple contacted me about a hog hunting trip the day before. Thanksgiving. While hunting about a half of a mile into the woods behind their house, they experienced wood knocks and bluff charges, but never saw the creature. They also told me about their neighbors hearing whoops on several different nights.
Whoop!
Myself and another BFRO investigator visited the sites where the witnesses had these encounters. While we did not see anything out of the ordinary, we did hear moans off in the distance and a howl further off in the distance that night. So that's a pretty creepy story, especially if you're living there and it's right in your backyard. I hope you're enjoying my stories, and I appreciate you watching. And if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you then.